Good Sunday morning, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here with another weather forecast. In this update, latest global computer models continue to indicate a very big weather pattern change coming by very late January all the way through the early and middle part of February. Now, if you find these videos really helpful, detailed, and informative, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell notification icon, and also slap this video a huge thumbs up. Now, with that being said, here's a look at our latest European model for Sunday afternoon, January the 26th, 2025. And as we do take a look here for Southern California, this is going to be the big storm system that is going to be developing in the high plains on Thursday and Friday this coming week as this tracks across the desert southwest into the high plains. And it's when we get into Thursday afternoon, folks, is when things are going to get pretty messy, especially for Texas and Oklahoma, as we're keeping an eye on this cutoff low that is going to eject into the high plains. And you can see it right here, moderate to heavy rainfall. We can be looking at some severe weather too, the risk for damaging winds and the potential for tornadoes, since we're going to have enough deep layer shear, especially over the southeastern half of Texas, Louisiana, as well as southernmost Arkansas. But it's not just that. The European model is picking up on moderate to heavy snowfall across northeastern New Mexico into southern Colorado. So yes, this storm system will be causing a little bit of problems on Thursday into Friday and even perhaps into early Saturday morning. Now, this is when it gets interesting, folks. By the time we go into Friday afternoon into the weekend of February the 1st and the 2nd, we do have the risk for severe weather down here for the deep south, such as Dixie Alley, possibly even along this warm front over southern portion there of Indiana, as well as Illinois, Ohio, into portions of the Ozarks, and then that remaining snowfall. But guess what we have back west? We have our next storm system marching on in across the Pacific Northwest, including for California. So yes, more snow is expected for the Intermountain West by the weekend, and this is going to continue all the way into the earlier following week of the 2nd and the 3rd of February. In fact, we're looking at snowstorm after snowstorm after snowstorm across Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and even in California with much below average temperatures with this system moving on through. But it's not until we get into the first full week of February when things could get pretty active here for the northern plains as far as snowstorms, maybe more additional ice storms. This is going back and forth on how models resolve this, but I'll tell you what, it could be pretty dangerous here by the 5th through the 7th of February. Models going back and forth with a potential Midwest snowstorm and ice storm with more additional storms across the Rockies. Now, when it comes to the GFS model, it is still on a different pattern versus the European model, but still showing this storm system that develops by Thursday into Friday this week, especially for Oklahoma, Texas, and Arkansas, right? So for Thursday morning the 30th, heavy rainfall and severe weather, potentially a big severe weather event could unfold, especially for Dixie Alley, since there's going to be a lot of warm air advection coming off the Gulf of Mexico, bringing in that warm, moist air northward into Tennessee. Out ahead of this cold front as well, we could be looking at some big time severe weather, strong winds, damaging winds, actually along to go with the risk for tornadoes and maybe some hail, but then there is that little bit of snowfall over Colorado. But that's not all. That moves through, and in fact, this has a different pattern showing up here for big time snowfall for the Northeast and portions of Pennsylvania out across the Ohio Valley, as well as West Virginia, versus the European model has lesser snow. But also it is showing more rainfall and snowfall just for the Pacific Northwest, with not much going on in California until the week of February the 2nd and the 3rd, where we get repeated storm systems, and then things go really wild by the time we go into the 6th and the 7th of February. But this is very far out, and a lot of you are probably posting a lot about this winter storm. This is pretty far out. I want to be clear about that. almost 300 hours out from happening. Now, when it comes to those snowfall totals on the European ensemble forecast, yeah, looking pretty concerning all the way through the 9th and the 10th of February. But we got to remember, this is pretty far out, but it gives us a rough idea on how much snowfall you could see through the next couple of weeks. And what the European model is showing here is it's showing quite a bit of snowfall for the Northeast on the order of 12 to 24 inches based on the latest ensemble output, a blend of 51 different versions of the model. And then, of course, for the Intermountain West, we're looking at substantial snowfall totals, possibly between 2 to 5 feet over the Sierra foothills, mountains, across the Cascades of Oregon and Washington, also portions of Montana and Idaho, those mountains, the Rocky Mountains, including for the Central Rockies, we can be looking at a lot of snow. But guess what? There is a chance of snow across the High Plains and out across the Mid-Atlantic versus across portions of these valleys in Colorado and portions of Arizona. So let's not forget about that, because the GEFS ensemble is also trending stronger with more significant snowfall over the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, including for Quebec and Ontario, Canada, with more decent snowfall expected over the Intermountain West. Now, as far as those rainfall totals look on the European ensemble, yeah, it's looking pretty wet here for Arklatex area, Mislatex region, looking at anywhere between 3 to 5 inches of rainfall over the next 2 weeks. It is going to be so wet that, yeah, precipitation anomalies here are going to be also above average, especially over the Arklatex area where I've circled in here in black, showing anywhere between about 2 to 3 inches above the long-term average for the next 2 weeks. And of course, across the West, it's always a welcoming sight to see more additional rainfall for California. Many areas are expected to see at least 1 inch of rain or more over the next 2 weeks, which is welcoming for those firefighters down here in Southern California that have been fighting these fires nonstop. But what's going to also help is the temperatures. We're seeing a big cool down across the Intermountain West by the second half of this work week coming up. So as we play this through here, you can see that the Arctic temperatures are going to abate. We're going to see a modified version of that as the jet stream becomes more zonal. We get more upper level ridging across the eastern half of the nation, with a lot more troughing across the western half of the nation. And in between these two, we either get zonal flow or southwesterly flow. And what that likes to do is it's going to advect warmer air off the Gulf of Mexico. And so by the time we go into Wednesday, the 29th of January, yes, many areas down here are going to be back into the 60s, 70s, possibly close to 80 degrees, especially for far southern Texas and far southern Florida, going to feel warm yet again, with more warmer temperatures up here in the Dakotas. Gosh, you're back into the low 50s instead of -10, -20, even -30 temperatures. And this is going to continue really warm up here in the Midwest and the Northern Plains, where all that Arctic air will remain well north of the United States. And this continues all the way through the 31st. Really quite impressive to see this. This is good news for a lot of you that need to thaw out. Even some ice left behind from that early January ice storm, some of that ice will be able to melt as well. But also this is going to lead to a lot of ice jam issues on areas, creeks, rivers, and small streams that come down here to the south. So keep that in mind. We could have flash flooding on some of these rivers because of that ice melting rapidly. And then by the 5th and the 6th of February, we could have more warmer temperatures with more Arctic temperatures coming in out of the north, but that is pretty far out in time. Now, from a temperature anomaly perspective here on the European ensemble forecast, orange, red colors indicate above average temperatures. Blue and green colors indicate below average temperatures. Okay, so as we put this into motion, above average temperatures will be moving into much of the east of the Rockies through the end of January into early February. You can see it right here. All of this red is temperatures above average, anywhere between 3 to 5, maybe 10 degrees above normal. And then, of course, up here across the Canadian Prairie, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, you're looking at temperatures about 10 to 20 degrees below average. And this is going to continue all the way through the next 10 days. Really, no more big Arctic outbreaks here across the Midwest, the upper Midwest, and even the mid-Atlantic and across the Southeast. Now, the reason why the weather pattern is going to be changing over the next couple of weeks is when we look at our geopotential heights. So areas that are in red indicate higher pressure. Areas that are in blue indicate lower pressure or troughs in the atmosphere. So as we go into motion here, this is across North America. Here is Canada up here. Let's put this into motion and I'll show you with what we have going on. So another trough re-amplifies over the Northeast, Nova Scotia, getting some lower heights. But watch what goes on here as we move forward, all right? We start to get that trough out of the area that moves into Greenland, and being replaced by that is going to be large-scale ridging that propagates from the west into the eastern half. And you'll see that here by the time we go into February the 3rd, February the 4th. This really amplifies. So what we end up seeing right about here is a very amplified wave pattern across the west. And yeah, look what we got. A ridge across the Great Lakes, the eastern half, and the southeastern United States for the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th of February. Now, if you found this video really helpful, detailed, and informative, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel today. Hit the bell notification icon and also hit that like button if you did enjoy the video, folks. It really helps out a lot. And lastly, be sure to check out our Weather Force Discord server. There's a link in the description below this video, along to go with our comment section. So if you want to leave an awesome comment, please do so below. But otherwise, that's going to do it with today's video. I'll be back with you more on Monday.